bad shit's going to happen. Diagnosis, death, loss, destruction, global pandemics. We cannot stop that. So are you ready? When it happens, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you awake? Because bravery is the hardest thing you'll ever do.
Welcome to the Mindset Hackers podcast, where we will help you level up both personally and professionally. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. Now, let's get going. What is up, Mindset Hackers? Thank you so much for joining me here today. I am so excited for today's episode. I've got an amazing guest. In 2019, I came across a book called Is My Homeboy, written by Judi Holler. And I read that book, and this was before I even thought about going down this journey of coaching or helping other coaches or being more vocal on social media or podcasting. And it's so cool to have the circle close today and have Judi here with me. I am incredibly inspired. I know that she will give you so much inspiration as well. And I want to talk a little bit about our book. And also, we're going to set you off with some action steps on how to crush it in the new year and to make fear your homeboy. Judi, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so great. And thank you for having me. Mindset Hackers, Mindset Hackers. Gosh, that's a great title. Because I think at the root of making fear your homeboy is first and foremost getting control with love of all those monsters in our brain that love to block our blessings and steal our joy and rob us of opportunities to really connect and lead and love and succeed the way we want. So I think it's so aligned, and I'm honored to be here with you. And thanks for having me.
Me too. I love it. I love making fear your homeboy instead of like trying to conquer it or dominate or to not have fear. And I'm going to ask you some questions around that, but let's start out with this. So one day, I don't know how it happened, but I received a book from you, and it's signed to. It says "Be Unfuckwithable." I love that, and I got that from you. And you know, it was one of the many books that I had read in personal development, and this was kind of when I was really diving full into this journey. But what made you so unique was you talked about embracing fear and making fear an ally. And I think that is such a great pivot, and it's so unique. And so this is something that's going to be so fun to talk about. But I need to know a little bit, or you know, I know a little bit about your backstory, but I would love for you to share, like, what got you onto the point? What created? How did you become Homeboys with Fear? How did you come on this path? Please tell me a little bit about your backstory before we jump in.
Well, the cold hard truth is that I am one of the biggest fraidy cats you will ever meet in your entire life. And so I think it's this fundamental understanding and permission that I received actually through my time in the improv theater. I am a professionally trained improviser. So we'll talk about that in a minute because it was a flashpoint where I put it all together. But I am a fraidy cat, right? And I sort of think me learning that and receiving the permission that I didn't have to be fearless. That was something that changed everything for me. There was a book I was reading on my honeymoon when the idea for Fear Is My Homeboy came to me. It's a book called Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. Have you read it, Simon?
I
Have you
have
read that book
not,
yet?
but I'm
Oh,
gonna
put
dive
it on
right
your
in
list.
if you
Okay,
suggest it.
everybody, go get that book. Go get that book. It's the perfect book to read. Okay, if you could have a New Year's trilogy to get you rock star ready, besides your book is on. Do you have a book? You have a book, right?
Not yet. I haven't reached that point, but you've certainly
Oh,
got me on the path. It's
you
going to be
need to.
called
Yes.
Mindset Hackers Handbook.
Great. Okay, great. We're going to manifest that into action right now. Let's just download that into whatever path that needs to go on, so that happens in the world for you when it's time. But I think if you could have a trilogy of books to get you rock star ready for 2023, it would be Fear's My Homeboy, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. I think those are three really
Ooh.
dope reads to get you kind of ready for 2023. So I was reading Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert on my honeymoon, catching a vibe. And there was this line in the book where it was talking about the notion of the word fearless. And she goes, literally, The word fearless makes my skin crawl. And I'm paraphrasing right now, but she's like, I hate that word. I loathe that word. And she's like, think about it. If you were really fearless, you would do all this crazy stuff. So she starts offering up examples. And some of those examples could be things like, and I say this from the stage in one of my keynotes, you know, if you were really fearless, you would do all kinds of crazy stuff. You would eat lettuce with E. coli because you're fearless, right? You would never pay your taxes. You would walk down dark alleys alone at night by yourself. You'd do all these crazy things. And Elizabeth Gilbert wrote this line. She goes, listen, the only fearless people I know are 5-year-olds and sociopaths. So no, the goal isn't fearless. The goal is brave. And I wrote in the margin right then and there in bright pink highlighter, of course, fear is my homeboy. And I was like, that's it. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't need to be fearless. I just need to be brave. And I believe through every bone in my body, with every blood cell that pumps oxygen through my human heart, that the future belongs to the brave, not the fearless, the brave. Those of us willing to keep walking, even though we don't know what's on the other side of the door, even though we don't know what's next, even though we may not have all the answers, even though our little knees are shaking like Bambi, little baby Bambi, right? Like we're moving despite fear and we're focusing on the next thing we can do instead of all of the things. And I think that is the essence of the work I'm now doing, as my book is now 3 years old, and the evolution of my career and my thought leadership and sort of the things I'm writing about now. But really the essence of what it means to make for your homeboy, it really means to just keep moving despite doubt. And the good news is that the more you do this, the more confident and braver you get. The goal is to increase our tolerance for pain, i.e., failure, risk, doubt, imposter syndrome, doing new things. Like every day I'm waking up going, okay, how can I increase my tolerance for pain? Because here's the thing, Simon, bad shit's going to happen. Diagnosis, death, loss, destruction, global pandemics. We cannot stop that. So are you ready? When it happens, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you awake? Because bravery is the hardest thing you'll ever do. So are we running the reps on the regular every day to get more comfortable in uncomfortable situations? That's what improv theater taught me. And I'll stop there because I know that's a lot, but improv really taught me that, you know, listen, you're going to be uncomfortable in life and that's normal. Cool. How can you get more comfortable in those comfortable situations? The more you do that, the braver you get and doors start to open.
I love that so much because I've heard this before, bravery and courage. It is not the absence of fear. It is being able to act in spite of fear, which is what such a great pivot. And I just don't think I've heard anybody, if anyone, talk about it other than you have. Was that prior to you starting in improv? Tell me about that. So you read this book, it started to shift your mindset. You wrote this down and the universe gave you a download and you started creating this beautiful, beautiful career that you have, but you still had to walk through that door and experience it. What did that look like? Tell me a little bit more about improv. I know that is something that is so big to you. And one of my coaches, I can't wait for her to hear this because she's been stepping into it too. And she signed up for improv classes. I can't wait for her to hear this story. Tell me more about that.
I love it. I love it. Yes, go take an improv class. If you have access, go do it, or read about it. Certainly my book touches on it, but I was lucky enough to be living in Chicago in my early 30s and decided to take a class at the world famous Second City, like literally at the age of 30. I was 30, so I wasn't like a young little whippersnapper taking improv in her early 20s to try and go be on Saturday Night Live. And Second City is a very famous improv theater, certainly the one in Chicago. A lot of very famous alumni have rolled through there. People like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Steve Carell and Gilda Radner and like Chris Farley. Like it's a legendary place to study. And I signed up for like level A improv, basic improv, no audition required. And I was 30. And I say that again because it's important because I wasn't super young. And I think a lot of times we write ourselves off and we think, oh my God, I'm too old for this. And what was I thinking? And that's what I did the first time. I tell this story from the keynote stage as well. It's one of my favorite stories, and it's in the book as well, that I actually quit the first time I signed up for improv. I was too afraid. that I was too old, and I quit. And I actually lied when people asked me if I was lost. I just made up some story and I ran out of the building. And it took me 2 years to go back to that improv classroom. Okay. And the fundamental question is, wouldn't it be great if we could stop doing that? If we could stop allowing fear, to drive our decisions, if we could stop missing opportunities and really start taking more confident action. So I was too afraid. I was afraid I was too old and everyone was going to make fun of me. And who did I think I was? And oh my God, I'm not even funny and all this stuff we do. So I signed up 2 years later. I had, and the reasons that brought me back to the improv theater, because I get this question a lot after my keynotes. What made you go back? Well, number one, mind your circle and mind what you read and what you listen to. I had a really great ensemble around me, reminding me of my power, that I am worthy and that I am right on time and that I am not too late. I was running with a circle of folks at that time who were high achieving and very supportive and very empowering in their mindset and beliefs. And I was also reading and listening to a lot of Seth Godin and a lot of Stephen Pressfield and a lot of Brene Brown and Marie Forleo and just people who were really helping me think differently. Tim Ferriss, people that were really helping me. John A. Cuff, people that were really helping me think bigger and differently about the conversation I was having with myself around what's possible in life and certainly courage. So I muster up my courage because I start to know better. And Oprah famously said, when you know better, you do better. When you learn better, you do better. And we can't be what we don't see. So I'm watching all of these women and these leaders and these people and these humans in my life actually do things that they thought were impossible, which sort of illuminated to me, well, hold up. If they can do it, I can do it. And if I'm too afraid to go to a Second City classroom, I'm going to miss out on so much more in the long term. So I force myself back. I repay the fee. I walk all the way back to the improv classroom. I open the door 2 years later. And what I didn't realize at the time is that I was quite literally opening the door to the rest of my life. I went on to study there for almost 7 years. I auditioned for the conservatory, the professional program, got in, stayed in, ended up, as you know, writing a book and quitting my job and starting a business and all of that stuff. But the best part of the story is that when I opened the improv door the second time, remember my big fear at the time 2 years ago was that I was too old at 30. Like if you're 30 and under listening to this podcast, you are a little whippersnapper. You are just getting started. You better go move, baby. But I was so afraid, right? So when I opened that improv classroom door the second time, the first person I saw, and I put this slide up in my talk. It's great. It's the photo of my first ever ensemble because we took pictures, in every class at the end of our semester, which I'm so glad we did now, right? I'm like, yay, I'm so glad I have that memory. But I put up this photo and I circle the face of Shelly, who at the time, literally the first person I saw when I opened the door, she was a 55-year-old University of Chicago professor taking improv to like think on her feet in the classroom. And then in the very back of the photo, I circle Frank, who at the time, roughly 52, 53 years old, taking improv to become like a more confident presenter in his job. And there I was waiting for 2 years. So that moment was a flashpoint because I was like, oh my gosh, that's what it's all about. It's mind blowing, the stories we tell ourselves. And if you want to generate any luck in your life, you have to be brave because there's no luck, there's only courage. And those of us who are willing to open the door despite our doubt are the ones who change the world because the future belongs to the brave. Enter my relationship with the improv theater. I took classes, like I said, for 7 years and started to do brave things in the improv classroom because I started to reframe taking risks and looking stupid and failing and bombing and I would do that at night. I'm working full time by day. I have a big corporate career in sales and marketing. I was in the hotel industry, so I worked for big hotel companies, opened hotels, really involved in the convention industry. So like at night, I'm doing improv and like I said, bombing and failing and fucking up and embarrassing myself, winning, laughing, losing, all of it, and then building up a tolerance for that pain. So by day, I would like boss up in the boardroom. I'd be like, okay, cool. this isn't so bad. I'm going to ask for what I want. I'm going to go on the date. I'm going to leave the date. I'm going to ask for the raise. I'm going to move to a new city. Like all these things, Simon, right? So for me, it was transformational. It really
Ah,
reframed how I showed up and how I advocated for myself, including setting boundaries, asking for what I want, and just taking good care of myself along the way, which isn't easy all the time. So that's enter improv, a massive flashpoint in my life.
Judi, I have literally got goosebumps going
Mm,
up and down both of my arms. Here's the reason why is
me too. Like every
this
time
is
I tell
literally
it,
a
I can't.
metaphorical. You opened the door. You
Literally.
like walked in there, you turned around, came back 2 years later, and you walked the through the just walking through that door literally changed the course of your life by stepping in to be brave and courageous instead of letting fear take over. You open the door and you walk through. And I think so many people fear what's on the other side of that door, but on this other side of this door for you, becoming a best-selling author and a keynote speaker and this whole beautiful life that you live helping other people step into this. This is so amazing. Okay, so imposter syndrome. I want to talk about that. And the reason why is because that it's so interesting because that's kind of, when I feel that, it makes me want to lean in because I know I'm on the right path. I'm sure you probably have a similar explanation to this, but I kind of feel like we have this rubber band that's holding us back, which is, our subconscious, like keep it safe, keep in your comfort zone. And the more you step in, the more that resistance of that rubber band, and eventually it snaps. But I want to hear your take on this. It was so interesting because I went on to Google Trends the other day and I typed in imposter syndrome just because it feels like that buzzword is everywhere. It feels like that is the word. Everybody has imposter syndrome. I want to hear your take.
Yes.
Tell me all about it.
Well, I have a very similar mindset to you on this because well, first of all, congratulations. If you feel like an imposter, guess what? It means you're doing it right. Like if you're
Absolutely.
afraid, if you're afraid, you're on the path.
Hell
If you're
yes.
doing it, like remember, fear's our homeboy, right?
Yes.
So we just got to decide who's driving the car here, right? And sometimes our fear, let's be clear, can keep us real safe and out of danger and out of harm's way and out of sticky business relationships that don't feel right or decisions that aren't in alignment with who we are and where we want to go. So I think that is the first thing to understand and really reckon with that. Cool. That means you're in the game. That means you've got your eyes on something bigger and better, that you've seen something in someone else that maybe you want a little of for yourself. So the flip and the switch is this: instead of what I have done because it's all about empowering ourselves. So the thing I do to like Jedi mind trick imposter syndrome and sort of tell it to sit down, because it is fear. It is a way fear tries to stop us. And let me pause right here. Fear has one job. It is really important for all of us to understand. Fear has one job only. It wakes up every single day to do one thing and one thing only: stop you. So knowing this is really powerful because it means you, my friend, have the antidote: movement.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to have a crystal ball. We just need to think about what we can do next in any given scenario, whether it's exciting, um, a little scary, or maybe even tragic, right? I don't have to have all the answers here, but what is the next thing I can do, from starting a business to moving through cancer to dealing with the loss to running your first marathon? Cool. What is the next thing I can do to make this advance itself, to keep me out of fear and in the magic of action, which is the essence of the improv theater, my friend. Yes,
Mm.
and yes, and yes, and it's the first thing we learn, right? So, imposter syndrome, back to our friend, imposter syndrome, the way I empower myself and reframe it is I go, okay, instead of, oh no, imposter syndrome's arrived again, here it is again, me dealing with imposter syndrome, me dealing with jealousy, me dealing with whatever it is that I'm feeling in that bucket of thought, I say, oh, wait, I've arrived. Imposter syndrome isn't here again. I've arrived, because it means I know I am ready and made for more. So what a shift, instead of, oh my God, I'm afraid again. Oh my God, imposter syndrome again. Oh my God, I'm jealous again. Ooh, wait, she has shown up. She has seen something that she wants for herself, that has awoken something inside of her, that maybe has cracked open an itch that she has been avoiding scratching for way too long, and someone else's living proof has unleashed the beast. Right? So, how can I study? How can I become a student of what is causing me jealousy, what is causing me fear, and what is causing me to feel like an imposter? And in that answer are powerful clues.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I wanted to ask you about this. Sometimes we fear things that have not even been created or even close to, and it seems like we'll ruminate on something. We'll have this internal battle, and for the entrepreneurs that I serve, I see this a lot of times. That it'll be this like back and forth. I kind of call it overthink, but you're going back and forth. Is this going to work out? Is it not going to work out? What are people going to think of me? And it spirals out, and it's spending like precious time and energy just in this internal battle. But we also experience fear like without the actual thing happening. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Like, tell me a little bit more about, what do you do when that? I'd love to know more about what fear you
Mm,
experience now, because I know that you've developed yourself in, we both have, and we've come a long way. But I'd love to hear more about like what are the things that come up in your world now when it comes to fear, and has that expanded since you've been playing such a bigger game? I know it has, but I'd love for you to share with my audience, what does fear look like for you now?
yeah. So I have, oh my gosh. Of course, every decade, every day, every new business milestone brings a new set of worries and wonders and ways we can overthink it all, and what I call dress rehearse tragedy. I'm real good at that, where I will take, oh my God, the worst things that could happen. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm running them all through my mind. And so, of course, I have the universal, my biggest fear of all time and always will be is, health, right? Staying healthy, and of high energy, so that I can really enjoy and experience this life and do all the things that I want to do. So my health being taken from me, or something like that, is always my greatest fear. So I use that as power. I mean, of course, I can't control the future. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do everything I can to um, make big deposits into the bank of little 80-year-old Judi, right? So that,
Hmm.
even though I don't know what's going to happen, because that is a fear, I prioritize my health and wellness, because I also think that courage is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And real courage, putting yourself out there, taking risks, doing new things, opening new doors, man, you got to be ready. It requires energy and stamina and mental focus and the right mindset. Like, you have to be awake, and you have to really be alive on the front lines of your life in order to live, um and perform and work at high levels. So health, of course, I think there is always, for anyone who creates in today's strange world, um this cancel culture that sort of is robbing so many of us of saying what we really want, or writing the way we really want to write, or saying the things we think the world needs to hear. And I am in the camp that I believe that you can't cancel courage. Right?
Hmm.
You can't cancel courage. And I think as long as you are creating and leading and living with love, and your intentions are rooted in that way, you can stay in the light and just show up bravely as yourself. Because let me tell you, being authentic is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. I have a book called Is My Homeboy, and you'd be kidding yourself if you don't think that this white American woman got some trouble for that name. But
Hmm.
this is so rooted in who I am and my story and how I grew up. And it's such a term of endearment for me. It's a term that has been such a loved filled slogan that I've been using. Everything was our homeboy in high school. I grew up in the 90s, right? And kind of that 90s hip hop culture, and in a diverse area in St. Louis. And so, I got asked by so many people to change it. I've been told that it was dangerous, that I should never put out a book like that. But let me tell you, you have to be who you are. You have to stand in your truth. And if you are writing and creating and leading with love, you can't lose. And at the end of the day, everything is borrowed from the universe, right? We are taking things from our travels, from the food we eat, to the music we listen to what we wear, to graffiti artists, to tap dancers. My feed is full of so many things that give me inspiration every day. So being really who you are, despite people not getting it, is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And I think it's a universal fear that so many of us have. People just not getting it, not understanding it, but that's okay. So how I keep myself in the light. So those are some of my big fears, of course. We want people to love our work. Not everybody's going to get it. Cool, no problem. Again, you can build that muscle to health, staying in good health, always making sure that I'm working hard on that as well. And prepared mentally should something happen I not foresee. But I think the way I stay in the light is I'm really working on asking myself, certainly if there's something tricky coming up, or if I'm moving through something, this question: what could go right? Like,
Ooh,
what
I
could go
love
right?
that. We're always looking for what's going to go
It's such
wrong.
a simple shift. But
Yes.
I have Simon, I have what could go right lists all over the place, especially if I'm starting something new,
Ooh.
a new talk, a new book, a new business, a new relationship. It's so easy to go, oh my God, what could go wrong here? And of course, there's a million freaking things that could go wrong. But ooh, babe, what could go right? What could go right? And that's the list that you put everywhere: screensavers, iPhones, mirrors, copy it wherever you could put it. So when I was writing Homeboy, that was everywhere. What could go right if I write this book? And I had crazy things on that list. Like, some of those things came true and they felt really crazy at the time. But if I write this book, I could become a main stage keynote speaker. I could speak in arenas. I could meet Oprah. I could do Super Soul Sunday. I could become a bestseller. I could, blah, 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 right? Like, I can
Oh,
open up a
wow.
new revenue stream. I could create a workbook. It becomes a course, and whatever. So when things got hard, when I got pushback, when I received haters or naysayers or whatever it may be, because you can't avoid that, like, unless you don't want to breathe or say anything in this world, people are going to have opinions about it, right? Like, you
Hmm.
just got to be ready. Hence why we work the muscle. Like, I'm always priming the muscle so that I can build confidence. Yeah. What could go right? That's, I think, the shift that helps me stay in the light, and, out of the fears that can sort of force me into really dark places.
Oh, you just led me into my next question, and I didn't plan this. I just
Cool.
thought we'd go here,
Ooh,
but
improv.
I
I
want to
love
talk
it.
about like the haters and the trolls. And the reason why I think this would be a great question to ask you is because, as entrepreneurs or coaches or content creators, we have this fear of judgment. I know that's one of the strongest fears out there. And, at least for the work that I do. And I remember when I first started going into this, and I'd see like people put up an advertisement about their offer or whatever. And then there'd be just these haters that jump in, and it's their baggage, and they tear into people and just rip into them. And I remember thinking, like, someday that's going to happen to me. And it was so interesting because, like, last week I got one of those in one of my advertisements, and I was like, this is awesome. I was almost like happy because I'm like, there it is. That means I'm moving forward. But I'd kind of prepped myself for that for a long time. And I would love to know, like, what do you do? Like, give me some solutions or some reframes of how you stepped into that. Cause I'm sure that you get like
Yes.
criticism or negative feedback, or
Sure.
occasionally a troll that just they want to take their pain and transfer it onto you. How do you do that? What do you do?
Yes. Two things. I love this question. So if you are listening right now, this is make sure you turn up the volume on this one, because these are going to be big ones. Number one: hurt people, hurt people, hurt people, hurt people. My life is pretty damn awesome. There are so many musical artists and ideas and books that I don't agree with. Awesome. I changed the channel. I am way too filled with love to waste any of my precious energy tearing someone else down. Like people who are in the arena, out on the field, doing badass stuff in the world, we aren't going to hurt you. The people who are going to hurt you are the people who are hurting. So number one, hug your haters. Block and bless. That's kind of my rule of thumb. I have a zero tolerance policy for negative people, places, and or things on any of my social media platforms. So goodbye. Like unless it's positive, like we got to go. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I love a conversation, but I'm talking about mean, hate, stuff like that. Okay, it's gonna happen. But I hug my haters because it can not only become, it's a reminder that I'm onto something because I've triggered someone. It is never about you. It is always about them. And number three, it means that, you know, I could have some potential content here. Thank you for the hate. I'm gonna spin this into my next podcast episode. I'm gonna write myself a viral blog post and thank you for the gift of your hate. Okay. That's number one. And number two, which is an empowering reframe. Number two, and this is really important to understand. We get so worried about people not liking us, people judging us, people making fun of us, that we just don't do anything. And the cold hard truth is this, and I hate to break it to you, but it's true. People already don't like you. People are already judging you, and people are already making fun of you. So the question is, who are you living your life for? And if you've ever heard the song by Bonnie Raitt, I'm going to drop it on you. Let's go let's give them something to talk. You know that song, let's give them something to talk about. Like, let's go give them something to talk about, right? If they're already talking, let's go give them something to talk about, right? So people are already talking. People already don't like you, right? So who are you living your life for? This is your life. The clock is ticking. The tick, tick, tick. Like you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. This is my life, right? And so just that's my perspective on it. And is it easy? No. But can you build up your tolerance for pain? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I would love to drop this mic, but it's attached to this stand here. That was incredible. Okay, so we've got a new year coming up, and people are starting to think about like how to position themselves. And I know that you've got a few questions that you like to have people ask of themselves to kind of put them in a better place for the new year. You and I were kind of talking about that before we hit the record button. Tell me more about that. What are some questions to help our audience? I think you might even have some homework for them to do.
Cool. Yeah, I do. Knowing that we're entering 2023, I think there's a lot of conversation we're having with ourselves and our families and our businesses about who we want to be and where we want to go. And so the holidays can feel really busy and hectic. Yet it also can be a really exciting time of reflection. So I thought I'd share this with your audience, knowing we're in that time frame, because I think if you could walk into 2023 with these three questions, and these are questions I ask myself every single day, and they help me stay mentally clear. These are massive mindset hacks, okay? And they keep me out of overwhelm and in the action, but they also make sure that I'm a priority in my life and in my family. We've got kids, we've got people, we got businesses, we got employees, we got all the things. So where are you in all of that? So here's the three questions, and you guys write these down. The first question I ask myself every single day when I look at my schedule, even if I can only carve out 5 minutes for it, and it's reading 5 pages of a book or whatever it is I'm always asking myself, where am I in my day? Where's my joy? Maybe that day I need some joy. I need a bubble bath. I need a walk. I need to listen to my favorite podcast. Where are my priorities? Where are the business? Where are those goals I set for myself? Where are those in my day? Where are they? Where are my priorities? Where are my goals? Where are my dreams? Where is my joy? Even if you're spending 5 minutes on it, if you're not asking yourself that question every day, you wake up at the end of your days full of regret. And you go, oh my God, I thought I had time. Like we do this someday. I'll do it someday when I retire, someday when the kids graduate, someday when I have more time, like someday when I lose the weight, someday when I have the money, someday when I get married. Like someday syndrome is one of the most deadly fear diseases on the planet. And us women especially, we feel real guilty about prioritizing ourselves because it feels selfish and all that shit, and we're worried about people judging us and all this other women. Oh my god, how dare she go take a solo trip, she's got 3 kids or whatever it may be. And it doesn't need to be extravagant, but like, where are your goals? Where's your joy? Where's your life? Where are you, the human being, in your day? So that's the most important and shape-shifting question I have started asking myself over the last 5 years, and I think it is a big secret to my success. So where is Judi in this day today? Where am I? Number two, okay, how can I get uncomfortable today? Or at the end of the day, did I get uncomfortable today? Or did I play it safe most of the day? Like, where in my schedule today can I do the brave thing instead of the safe thing? Maybe I go on camera on my Zoom. Maybe I pick up the phone and call my dad instead of texting him. Maybe I make a sales call, make 3 sales calls today on behalf of my business. Super scary, right? Maybe I post my first Instagram reel, or maybe I put my face on my social media because maybe I put my first offer out there. Like, where can I take this thing that's on my calendar? Okay, I've got to go into the office today. Cool. Could I, while I'm at the office, go introduce myself to someone new that I haven't met yet? I have a co-working space. So could I knock on a door and say hi, just to fuck it up a little bit and work the muscle? In my book, I call these fear experiments, or what we're now calling them, hashtag experiments, right? So these are like little daily fear experiments where you are working the muscle. We've got to build our tolerance for pain. So if you're not playing with your fear, how are you going to get brave? So every day I'm like, okay, great. How am I going to get uncomfortable today? How am I going to do it? Where can I do the uncomfortable thing? Like, could I go introduce myself to someone new? Could I wear sequin if everybody's in suits? Like, can I try a new food? Can I listen to new music? All the things. So that is question number 2. So question 1, where am I in my day? Question 2, how can I get uncomfortable today? Like, where am I playing it too safe here? How can I remix this a little bit? And then number 3, okay, we all have projects that we're working on. We'll probably, I usually have like 3 priorities for the day. So I always am asking myself, as I look at right now, I'll give you a perfect tactical example. This is all about the next thing. So the question is, what is the next thing I can do? So whether you are moving through something really tough right now, maybe it's a diagnosis, or maybe you, like me, are rebuilding your entire freaking website and it is super overwhelming, right? And we are on deadline for that. So this morning I'm like, okay, what is the next thing I can do? Like, I am super overwhelmed looking at 25 pages of wireframes. Cool. What's the next thing I can do? I wrote down the homepage. So I just worked through that whole homepage. And guess what happens? Once you do the next thing, momentum, magical. And you just sort of wake up this beast, and it gives you the courage to pick it up and do it again the next day. So every day, sort of say, okay, what is my biggest priority of the day? And cool, what's the next thing I can do here? Or if I'm moving through a loss or a diagnosis or something more traumatic, a global pandemic, when my entire keynote business speaking business shut down overnight, like most of our worlds and businesses did, some more traumatic than others. Okay, what is the next thing I could do today? Maybe today I learn Zoom. Maybe today I figure out how to set up a virtual studio and see what people are doing. Maybe today I pick up the phone and call my top 5 clients and ask them if I can provide work on Courage right now at a discounted rate for their teams, like virtually. I don't know, but like, what is the next thing I can do? Again, momentum. And I think those 3 questions can really get you started. And I think in partnership to that, if you are looking for a place to start, because I think so many of us don't know where to start, I have a free resource. So I don't know if you do show notes, but you have to link up to this.
Absolutely. We're going to blow it up.
Okay. So I have people don't know where to start. We freak out. We're like, oh my God, yes, this all sounds great, but where do I start? So 7.5, almost 8 years ago now, started a process called, I write about it in my book. It's called goal-focused planning. And this is the science-backed approach of you taking your big annual goals and your dreams. This is really good timing, you guys, for this, by the way. So I love the serendipity of all of this. So, okay, so it's you taking your big goals for 2023 and breaking them down into quarters, and then so it's the science-backed approach of working in small windows to achieve big results. So we take annual goals, put them in quarters, and then advance those quarters by month, and then obviously those months by weeks. Okay. I know it sounds complicated. So I had been doing this. It poured rocket fuel onto my business and really my life. I loved it so much that when things slowed down in the pandemic, I created my own. So I built this planner. It's called the Possibility Planner. It's awesome. We sell it on our website, but we have a digital version now, and I want to give it to y'all for free. So if you go to judiholler.com and you could just take the prompts and use it, see what works for you. It'll walk you through how to get started, asking these questions, conducting daily fear experiments, all this stuff Simon and I just talked about. So if you go to judiholler.com/start here, it will get you started, and you can immediately download the PDF and see how it feels. Just throw it on your iPad, print off the pages, incorporate those prompts into what you're already using. You don't have to buy a thing, but this just sort of opens the door for you to think differently about how you're prioritizing yourself in your days, but mostly how you're moving forward bravely, because that's the whole point. So judiholler.com/start here.
Oh, I love it. Those are some great actions. Three simple, they're so simple, but they're so impactful. I love number 2. Number 3 too. It's like, I love that you dived in and out. I kind of did that when I built my first course, just laid everything out, 15 to 30 minutes a day of just one action step at a time.
So good.
Yeah. In a month, I had a course built that's now a 6-figure business, and like just in 10, 15, 20-minute increments. So just taking those small steps, and
break
I love
it
the
down.
planner. Yeah.
Like small chunks. There's this people like reading. Here's a little nugget for you. Reading. I became obsessed. I have a friend who reads a book a week, and I'm like, how do you read a book a week? Oh my God. So if you think about the average book is like 250, 300, 200 pages, something like that. Okay. In 5 days, if you read, 50 pages a day, which is about 30 minutes worth of time, you're reading a book a week. So that's a part of my morning routine. Every morning I'm reading The Future of Leadership right now, and I'm almost done. But this is a really great way to stay relevant. But there's science that shows us if you read just 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes, it typically equates to about 10 pages per day. Okay. For the average reader, you will have read in 1 year's time, 10 pages a day, 10 minutes a day. You will have read 19 200-page books. And just imagine how your life can change when you're doing that. So again, to your point, reading 19 books feels completely overwhelming to most people, but 10 minutes a day, I got you, boo. I can do 10 pages, 10 pages, 10 pages. I can do that, right? So I agree with you. It's taking the big, scary stuff and putting it into bite-sized chunks so that we can pick up some momentum, because that's where the magic lives.
Absolutely. All right, mindset hackers, I'm going to wrap this up, but I have a couple very specific calls to action for you. Please go to judiholler.com. Did I say that? That's the correct URL.
Judi, right? Judi, Judi Holler, Holler.
Make sure you go there right now, grab the planner, and you can also get a hard copy of that. But I encourage you to grab Is My Homeboy. That made a shift in my life, and I know it will for you. I would also love it if you would share this episode with somebody who could use this message. I know that so many of us are trying to fight off fear when we should really be making fear our homeboy. Thank you so much, Judi. I really appreciate you. And Mindset Hackers, I will catch you on the next episode.